In the centuries since Earth joined the galactic community, humans had developed a peculiar reputation among the stars. Their homeworld was classified as a Class 12 Deathworld, one of the most dangerous known planets, rife with apex predators, tectonic instability, extreme climates, and a bafflingly hostile biosphere. Most expected humans to be savage, violent, and perpetually on the brink of self-destruction. But the reality surprised the galaxy. Humans were polite, diplomatic, cooperative. They built trade routes, peace treaties, and educational exchanges. Instead of flexing military might, they brought cultural influence and technological creativity. Other species began to regard them as clever, adaptable oddities rather than true powers. A few even laughed at the contrast. These Deathworlders seemed more interested in making music and cooking alien fusion food than waging war. The Karnathi Dominion, an expansionist reptilian empire, was among those who scoffed the loudest. With a rigid caste society and a deep reverence for strength through conquest, the Karnathi saw humans as soft and overestimated. They argued in the Galactic Senate that Earth's diplomatic alliances were a mask-hiding weakness, and that their lack of military intervention in recent skirmishes was proof they feared real war. Karnathi scouts began probing the edges of human protectorates, outer colonies, and allied systems far from Sol. Earth responded with restraint, filing formal protests, issuing sanctions, and urging peace talks. The galactic community echoed their calls, but many viewed humanity's patience as a sign of hesitance, not control. Then came the incident that would change everything. The colony known as Erebus Station sat on the border between Karnathi space and the Terran Union. It was a peaceful outpost, a research hub and trade port home to 200,000 civilians, including many interspecies families. Despite its proximity to Karnathi space, it had no major military assets, only standard orbital defense platforms and a small peacekeeping detachment. The Karnathi, emboldened by years of unchecked aggression, decided to make a statement. In a coordinated strike, they disabled Erebus Station's communications, overwhelmed its defenses, and launched an invasion. The entire operation was broadcast live across galactic media. The Karnathi used it as propaganda, bragging about their strength and Earth's cowardice. The footage was horrifying. Civilians gunned down in hallways, researchers burned alive, children dragged from shelters. And still, Earth said nothing. No emergency council, no threats, no fleet movements, just silence. This silence, more than anything, rattled certain observers. Admiral Vok, an elder tactician of the Avari race who had studied human history, recognized the pattern immediately. He remembered the ancient Earth wars, their brutality, their efficiency, their finality. He warned his government, "You don't understand. They're not passive. They're waiting. They're choosing." But most didn't listen. Talk show hosts mocked human leaders. Memes circulated with humans hiding under desks. The Karnathi reveled in their success, claiming that Deathworld status meant nothing if the species had no will to fight. For the galaxy, the destruction of Erebus was just another political flashpoint. For humanity, it was a line crossed. At the Sol Council, leaders gathered in a closed-door session. Survivors from Erebus were recovered, broken, hollow-eyed, and carrying hollow recordings of the slaughter. Humanity did not rage. It did not cry for vengeance in public. Instead, it went still. Plans long buried in black budget vaults were dusted off. Restricted AI protocols were quietly authorized. Fleets went dark, no longer reporting to civilian channels. Earth's moon lit up with silent activity as its ancient shipyards roared back to life. The galaxy watched the Deathworlders and saw weakness. They had no idea what was coming. The destruction of Erebus Station sent a ripple through the galactic community, but not the shockwave many had expected. Most species viewed the massacre as a tragedy, yes, but not an unprecedented one. Frontier colonies were always vulnerable, and interstellar politics had seen worse. Earth's lack of immediate response only reinforced the narrative. The Deathworlders weren't so dangerous after all. In the days and weeks that followed, confusion reigned. Galactic media debated humanity's silence. Commentators speculated whether Earth was paralyzed by fear, internally divided, or simply incapable of retaliating against the militarily superior Carnathi Dominion. Social networks buzzed with memes, jokes, and mockery. The phrase, Deathworlders? More like Peaceworlders, trended across dozens of worlds. The Carnathi, emboldened by their so-called victory, declared the Erebus attack a necessary strike against human expansionism. Their leaders spun tales of fabricated weapons labs and secret fleets hiding in the colony. Most of the galaxy didn't buy it, but few pushed back. After all, humans weren't protesting. They hadn't moved a single warship. Instead, they went quiet, terrifyingly quiet. No press conferences, no retaliatory strikes, no threats. Earth's embassies reduced contact to the bare minimum. The Terran Union's official channels simply stated, "A formal response is being prepared." Many species, especially the younger ones, took this as a sign of submission. They speculated that humans, for all their posturing as adaptable and resilient, had simply never faced a real empire before. "The Deathworlder myth has crumbled," one Carnathi senator proclaimed. "Their restraint is not wisdom, it is fear." But others weren't so certain. Whispers began to circulate in backroom military meetings, in encrypted diplomatic channels, in academic circles that studied Earth history. Some began to realize this was a pattern, not weakness, not indecision, deliberation, calculation, timing. Among them was Admiral Vok of the Avari, a retired strategist turned historian. He had studied Earth's wars, especially their early interstellar skirmishes, which often followed the same chilling progression: diplomacy, then silence, then absolute devastation. The Terran doctrine was one of escalation only after moral justification had been undeniably established. Once that line was crossed, they didn't stop until the threat was eliminated completely. Vok published a private advisory to his government titled "The Human War Cycle: Predicting the Burn." He warned that the silence was not apathy, it was the drawing of breath before a shout. He urged Avari officials to sever trade ties with the Carnathi and to publicly condemn the Erebus assault. His advice was ignored. On a quiet evening across hundreds of planetary networks, a single transmission interrupted normal broadcasts. No sound, just black text on a white background, translated instantly into every galactic language. Humanity will now respond in kind, no emblem, no voice, no emotion. The galaxy froze. Within hours, diplomatic channels to Earth went offline. Human fleets dropped off public registries. Research stations went dark. Outposts that once buzzed with interstellar cooperation shut their doors. Then came the disappearances. Carnathi patrol fleets, gone, without distress calls. Listening posts, silent. Merchant vessels traveling near Terran space, vanished. The Dominion's outer colonies reported sensor ghosts, strange interference, and unexplained orbital anomalies. Humanity said nothing. But quietly, in the dark corners of the galaxy, a new phrase began circulating. "They're not speaking because they're already moving." The galaxy had mistaken mercy for fear. They were about to learn the difference. The galaxy didn't know exactly when the war began, only that one day the Carnathi Dominion started vanishing. It started with static. A Carnathi deep space listening post stopped transmitting. When a scout ship was dispatched, it vanished, mid-jump. Within 48 hours, 3 border outposts, a fuel depot, and an entire fleet, 4th Carnathi Armada, went dark. No distress signals, no escape pods, no debris. For the first time in centuries, fear took root in the hearts of an empire. While the Carnathi scrambled for answers, the Terran Union said nothing. There were no official war declarations, no chest-thumping rhetoric. Earth simply began moving in a way no one had seen before. The human flagship, TSS Vindicator, emerged in Carnathi space cloaked in a shifting cloud of nanite dust. Each particle, a weapon, a scout, or an ECM, electronic countermeasure unit. Its arrival marked the debut of Protocol Hades, a Black Ops war doctrine developed during Earth's most secretive cold conflicts, now fully activated. Entire Carnathi flotillas were disabled in seconds, their ships infected with AI viruses that hijacked internal systems, reversed gravity plating, or shut down life support with surgical precision. Human weapons weren't louder, they were smarter, cleaner, and terrifyingly efficient. There were no messy battles, just events where enemies ceased to function. The Dominion, used to battles of attrition and brute force, had no counter-strategy. Human, Marines clad in exosuits optimized for planetary hellscapes, conducted surgical strikes on fortress worlds. They didn't destroy cities, they evacuated civilians, and then dismantled military infrastructure with precision orbital tunneling, bombs that left the surrounding landscape untouched. They weren't waging war for conquest, they were conducting a purge. The Carnathi High Council, once defiant and proud, devolved into chaos. Internal factions argued whether to surrender, escalate, or flee. One general proposed launching a retaliatory strike on a human colony. They never got the chance. Before the words left his mouth, the lights in the council chamber flickered. A hologram of Erebus Station's destruction played silently on a loop. The human ambassador, never seen entering the chamber, stepped into view. He uttered just one sentence. "This is your mirror." The feed cut. The building detonated 5 seconds later. Throughout the galaxy, species watched from the sidelines, gripped with awe and terror. These weren't the soft, smiling diplomats they remembered. These were Deathworlders, and now the galaxy understood why that term had always come with a warning. Humanity didn't target civilian infrastructure. They didn't enslave, loot, or gloat. They destroyed only the machinery of war, decisively, surgically, mercilessly. Their silence wasn't out of fear. It was the discipline of a species that had been forced to endure extinction-level conditions for millennia and had evolved to endure anything but betrayal. In less than 20 days, over 60% of the Carnathi war machine was eradicated. Every shipyard, weapons factory, and forward base was gone. Not under attack, not damaged. Gone. The final blow came when the TSS Vindicator dropped into orbit above Carnath Prime, the heart of the Dominion. The city shield generators, long thought impenetrable, collapsed before they were even powered on. Human forces surrounded the capital without firing a single shot. Then they waited. They offered no terms, no demands. The implication was chilling. They weren't here to negotiate. They were here to end. At last, the Carnathi surrendered unconditionally. The war was over, but the message had only just begun to spread. The war that wasn't declared ended as suddenly as it had begun. The Carnathi Dominion, once a proud and unchallenged empire, was left broken. Their fleets were reduced to scrap, their weapons depots silenced, their command structures dissolved in a matter of days. Entire military academies, once buzzing with arrogant officers and conquest doctrine, were now ghost towns patrolled by human peacekeepers in quiet, watchful silence. But Earth didn't stay to rule. They could have occupied Carnathi space. They could have installed puppet governments or stripped planets for resources. Instead, humanity did something more terrifying. They left, taking nothing but a memory burned into the hearts of every species. You don't provoke Deathworlders. In the Galactic Senate, silence reigned as humanity's representative stepped forward. Ambassador Reyes, flanked not by guards but by scientists and diplomats, calmly addressed the chamber. Her tone was measured, her expression unreadable. We regret the loss of innocent life. We grieve for Erebus, and we mourn for what we had to become, if only for a moment, to remind you all of what we chose not to be. Not once did she mention retribution. Not once did she name the Carnathi. There were no threats, no ultimatums, only a simple statement of truth. We held back because we believed peace was possible. We won't ask you to thank us, but we expect you not to forget. With that, humanity formally ended hostilities and returned to its previous diplomatic engagements. It signed new trade deals. It offered reconstruction aid, yes, even to the Karnathi worlds. But there was a visible shift across the galaxy, like a current changing direction. Everyone remembered now. Treaties were quietly amended to include clauses of non-provocation toward Terran protectorates. Military simulations were rewritten with Terran scenarios labeled as unwinnable unless specific diplomatic solutions were included. Entire military academies introduced new mandatory coursework: Deathworlders Strategic Doctrine, a study in restraint and response. Children on 1,000 worlds studied the Erebus incident, not as a tale of war, but as a parable. The message, simple and indelible, was this: mercy is not weakness, silence is not surrender, and Deathworlders never strike first, but they always finish it. The Karnathi, now humbled, were placed under Terran-enforced demilitarization protocols. No reparations were demanded. Instead, humanity sent engineers and terraformers, helping them rebuild. It wasn't forgiveness. It was a reminder of what humans had always offered first: coexistence. But if the galaxy hoped that the storm had passed, they were only half right. The outer colonies of Earth, the places that had once lived under the naive belief that the galactic community would protect them, now held their own councils. New defense pacts were formed. Human space industries shifted focus toward deterrent readiness. Quietly, humanity had begun preparing not for another war, but to ensure there would never need to be another war again. Rumors spread of new Terran technologies still under wraps: autonomous fleets, quantum-based strategic prediction, AIs and exotic matter weapons. No official confirmation was ever given, but the whispers were enough, because now the galaxy understood. The day the Deathworlders got serious was a day etched not in blood, but in ash, silence, and absolute clarity. The final public statement, Earth made before retreating back into diplomatic civility, was delivered in every known galactic language, carved into a monument outside the rebuilt galactic Senate chambers. We tried kindness. You mistook it for weakness. We tried peace. You mistook it for fear. We responded, you will not mistake us again, and they didn't. Not ever again.